And when I was at the US-Mexico border, there were tons of Chinese. Maybe 1 out of every 4 or 1 out of every 5 people we saw was Chinese, and they were just group after group. The individuals I talked to, though, because I know some people are like, "Oh, is the CCP running this?" Every person I talked to who was Chinese was really anti-CCP. One individual I talked to was a house Christian, and they were saying that basically, they weren't able to practice their faith in China. They were saying that in the Christian churches in China, you have to sing like Communist Party hymns. I mean, I know you guys talk about this stuff too.
It's good to bring up here, though.
Yeah, I talked to another individual who actually worked in finance in China. I met this guy at one of the migrant camps right at the mouth of the Darien Gap, and so this guy went through the Darien Gap despite having a lot of money for some reason. This individual said that basically the Chinese economy was collapsing. He said the CCP was becoming like out of its mind, and he was saying that everyone's trying to get out. Other people I talked to another guy. He said that his daughter was being abused in the school system in China. He was talking about how just crazy authoritarian it is. Every person I talked to was fleeing China, not because they were pro CCP or whatever, but because they were legitimately fleeing China. I didn't talk to a single person who was pro CCP.
Well, that is interesting because a lot of the, online commentators are like, these are Chinese Fifth Army infiltration, some horrible. It's a plot by China to undermine the U.S.
I think there was like a lot of talk about how they are all young men of military
age. Chinese men are crossing the border.
Yeah. So I actually, if you watch my documentary, I'm actually kind of sympathetic to the migrants. I don't criticize them. My whole thing is I think we should be talking about what's actually running the whole thing, and I think we should be talking more about that. You know what I mean? But on the individual level, like, it wasn't just young men or military age men, which I know a lot of people, like you were saying, a lot of the online commentators say that. You had there were a lot of kids, there were a lot of women still. It is, I think the majority technically are men, but I saw a good mix of people. You know what I mean? One of the Chinese individuals I ran across was when I was in San Ysidro. It was a really sad story. It was this young Chinese girl, and she was walking with a Chinese guy who I thought they were related at first. It turns out that she was just trying to find somebody to be safe with. We were driving to the big opening in the wall because people were just streaming across. And she, waves us down, panicking. We stop. She had a big wooden cross. I didn't ask her about her religion, but I assume she was Christian. And then she just breaks down crying in front of us. I mean, the girl must have been like late teens, early 20s. It's hard to tell sometimes with Chinese. They look younger than they are. But she was breaking down crying. She said that she didn't want to come. She said her mom made her. She was begging us for help. I admittedly, I gave her some water and some food. I told her that I couldn't give her a ride because, I could be charged with a crime if I do that. But, she's coming across, she didn't have any supplies, and she's in like an arid area. I didn't want her dying. You know what I mean? So I gave her some water and some food. And then she just burst into tears and she started bowing and stuff. I mean, I can appreciate, the humanity in it. Every person I talked to had a really sad story, to be honest. The people from Latin America, I talked to a lot of people from Ecuador, and they were saying that there's just gangs just killing people. Like they said, they can't live. They can't live because these gangs, they extort people, they kill people. It's impossible to live because the gangs are so powerful. Same thing with Venezuela, with the socialist policies they have there. I mean, the problem is, though, is as a country, can we bring in like all of Ecuador? can we bring in like all of China? It's not an easy issue, right?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that should be where the energies and efforts of the UN are directed at doing something about the cartels, rather than potentially creating a system that empowers cartels.
And that was actually a conversation I had with quite a few people. When I talked to the former head of Centerfront, that's one of the things he was saying. When I talked to this guy, Oscar Ramirez, this Mexican journalist, that's what he was saying. People were saying that actually the UN is making it worse because they're actually preventing policing against a lot of the gangs. They're preventing police from arresting cartel members when they're embedded with the migrants. They're going after Centerfront when Centerfront sends troops into the mountains and kills, cartel members who are raping and killing and robbing people. I mean, one of the real terrible parts in the video that I have was provided to me by Oscar Ramirez because he's walked through the gap several times. He said that they were at the mouth. They were down the hill in the Daran Gap, one of the many mountains, right? And group after group of people coming through. He was with Centerfront, so he had like an armed guard with him, right? He was with Centerfront, and group after group is coming to them, and every woman was saying that they had just been raped. Every one of them, like group after group after group. They were saying that there's people out there, they're robbing us and they're raping us. And, one of the clips we had was this young girl. I mean, she was a kid, like maybe like early teens. And she was traumatized. She couldn't talk, right? And her family was like, she's traumatized. She can't talk to you. And so actually Centerfront went into the jungle to go find it. When they went there, they found one of these cartel members in the process of raping a girl. There were two guys, two or three, I can't remember now. As soon as they saw Centerfront, they had guns. They opened fire on Centerfront. They started shooting at them, and they got in a full-blown shootout with these cartel, right? Centerfront and the cartel. They ended up killing one of them and then injuring the other and then arresting him. And in the shootout, the woman who was being raped, she got hit by a bullet. They had to life flight her out of there. I mean, stuff like this, you know what I mean? But, that's the issue, is this whole movement, it's creating this problem because they're not dealing, why is the United Nations not supporting, anti-crime initiatives in Ecuador, for example? Why are they criticizing El Salvador for going after MS-13? Instead, they're criticizing El Salvador for doing it. Really, why not solve the problem rather than subsidize the problem, rather than facilitate the problem? Why build an infrastructure on top of a problem rather than fix it? And so they're not going after the causes of anything. If anything, they're probably making it a lot worse because they're pouring money, like billions of dollars, into the pockets of human traffickers by facilitating this process. And the other side, too, is when you have people who become aggrieved with problems in their country and you just create an opening for all of them to leave, what happens? Well, they don't fix the problem. The problem never gets fixed because the people who have issues with it don't stay to fix it. And it's creating a system where it's institutionalizing the problems rather than fixing them. And the people I were talking to, that was one of the big concerns that they actually had with all this.